Hi there, you once again, and I wanna welcome everyone back for the next review, and of course the sequel to Marvel's The Avengers. And now I'm gonna talking about Avengers: Age of Ultron. The sequel came out 2015 May 1, and back to back, this movie is fucking underrated. The most underrated Avengers film I have ever seen. One of my personal favorite movies of all time. I love this movie to death. With the first one, I would say it's sequel. They're both my number one movies. Probably my favorite of both of them. The first and I'm a fan of both of them. But I'll probably put this movie above first one because when I rewatch it again, I love the first one. The first one is the best. But so is this movie, and this movie is mocked by critics, which I don't get it. Avengers: Age of Ultron is actually directed by Joss Whedon and written and directed by Joss Whedon, who directed the first movie. And Avengers: Age of Ultron has been mocked by critics, by comments, by fans. It was been completely mocked. It holds a rating score on IMDb 7.3, while Avengers: Infinity War and Endgame got over 8, which is ridiculous. And I think Age of Ultron is very underrated superhero movie, in my opinion. And Ultron is actually one of my favorite villains. That's Ultron, played by James Spader. And the sequel reunites once again Avengers, since this was actually the 11th movie in the in the MCU Marvel Cinematic Universe. It was actually the 11th movie, and this is actually spawned in the phase 2, in the second phase. This movie has been spawned in the second phase, and it was actually with Iron Man 3, Thor: The Dark World. I think was Guardian of the Galaxy, was also Guardians of the Galaxy. It was Guardians of the Galaxy. It was also with those movies. And after Avengers: Age of Ultron was released later, Marvel also released Ant-Man. And I don't know if I mentioned it in the first movie, in my first video, but they supposed to bring in the first Avengers, they supposed to bring Ant-Man and the Wasp, but they actually decide to take the characters off, and they put in it Clint Barton, Hawkeye, and of course Black Widow, Natasha Romanoff, which they replaced Ant-Man the Wasp because they wanted their own movie. But Marvel Avengers, this movie was announced back in 2012. I wrote it somewhere down. I have a few notes, and I had to find it where I wrote this down. This movie was announced back in May 2012 when the first movie was released. It was released in May 2012. I remember when I saw the title of letter A, and so casting began in June 2013, and it was also second unit filming began in February 2014 in South Africa, which they actually shot in South Africa for months, the filming scenes. And I remember when it was writing Avengers: Age of Ultron that they mentioned that the government, they found an artificial intelligence, which they thought is gonna be a protective system, and that's not gonna be needed, and they're gonna protect from ultimate evil and global extinction, and Avengers are not gonna be needed anymore. But when artificial intelligence, Ultron gets every wrong, the world needs Avengers once again. And this time in the sequel, Avengers Age of Ultron is actually after the battle in Sokovia for the Loki's how is it called it Loki scepter for the Avengers are fighting battle in Avengers are actually fighting a battle in Sokovia, which they're looking for Loki's scepter, and when they actually looking for Loki's scepter, and when Tony Stark and Bruce Banner, they decide to rebuild how is it called it they decide to with Loki's scepter, they decide to rebuild Ultron, artificial intelligence, which was created by Tony and Bruce Banner, for a pilot peace program that is overwhelmed with a god complex, and now desires to pacify the earth by eradicating humanity, and they wanted to protective system developed, in which they wanted, in which Tony had a vision that all his friends are being killed, are being dead, and with Bruce Banner, they made through Garvis Matrix, through Garvis program, they create Ultron, a protective defense system, I call it defense system, artificial intelligence, in which his friends and everyone on the earth is gonna be safe. But Ultron kills Jarvis, and he sees completely different the world, and he wants to make a global extinction by destroy the planet and recreate it, Earth once again, and he's threatening a global extinction, and only one, and when Ultron attacks Avengers in their headquarters, and steals Loki's and he steals Loki's scepter, I think, with scepter. I always forgot that stick that Loki holds in his hand. With Loki's scepter, he steals Loki's scepter, and of course he steals Loki's scepter, and he I did wrote it somewhere down. Yeah, Ultron also steals the scepter, and he steals a scepter. He builds an army of droids with scepter, using resources in Strucker's Sokovia base, and he's planning to destroy the planet by creating global extinction. And of course, Avengers now, they have to stop them. They have to stop Ultron with the help of Ultron has also by the side, he has the Maximoff twins, which you watch Captain America, the Winter Soldier. They actually the twins. They showed up on the end of credits, and with them, he creates now Ultron with Maximoff twins. He plans to create a global extinction, and only Avengers, they have to stop them. And like I said, in the opening scene, they go to fight the Avengers, all six superhero teams. They're fighting Sokovia, which they're hunting down and try to retrieve Loki's scepter, who fall into wrong enemy's hands. And while in Sokovia, when Tony Stark, as Iron Man in his iron suit, he goes and finds the scepter, and because the Sokovia army is under attack, by Avengers, the Maximum twins decide to attack Avengers because they blame, the twins blame Tony Stark's missile to kill their parents, and for days they thought the missile's gonna kill them, but it didn't. And Maxima Vandov, she uses her powers on Tony Stark. She uses her powers in which she uses her hypnosis powers and makes Tony a vision in which he sees all his friends been dead. So he uses Tony grabs Loki's scepter and he goes back to his home, to his building, Stark building, and with the help of Bruce Banner, he develops a system which he wants to protect the world and everyone, and he designs. They both design Ultron, which of course a new age begins. They create a peacekeeping program, which goes over, and when Ultron wakes up in the system, he finds out that that world is chaos. So he goes and he goes and he goes and creates a vision. He creates an android in himself, and he puts his program in the android, and he builds with Loki's scepter. He goes and builds an army of droids, which the Maximum twins are helping him out. By the way, that's Ultron. That's Ultron. That's Ultron. In droid, the program is in this droid. Who plans to destroy the world by creating a global extinction, and the Avengers, they have to stop them. While the Avengers, they have a farewell party for Thor. They interrupted by Ultron, which he says that he murdered the other guy, Jarvis. The voice was landed by Paul Bettany, who later became Vision, and now Ultron with the Maximov twins, he goes and plans, with the Maximum twins, he goes and plans that he's gonna destroy. That he's gonna create a global extinction, and he also promised to Maximov twins revenge on the Avengers, which they're gonna destroy the Avengers. So they go to Johannesburg to get to get in that African ship, and in Johannesburg to get that vibranium, because Ultron needs vibranium, so they go to Johannesburg, and we have an African ship, and that's actually one of my favorite scenes. The African ship, they go to this guy, arms dealer, Ulysses Klaus, Ulysses Cloud, in Johannesburg. I think that Ulysses Cloud returns in the next sequel. I think was Captain America Civil War. I'm not sure, but I remember I did saw him, or was he? I think it was, or was he in Captain America, the Winter Soldier? I can't remember, I'm not sure. So I'm sorry if I'm wrong. But yeah, they go to Johannesburg, to get vibranium because Ultron needs that. And then we see a battle, and Wanda Maximoff, she uses her telekinetic powers, and her hypnosis powers, and she grabs all the teams down, and we see a flashback from Natasha Romanoff, Black Widow, when she was younger. By the way, that was CGI Scarlett Johansson. The actress looks like Scarlett Johansson, so that was her in younger herself in a CGI, so we see her as a kid being trained, to be an assassin, and pretty great job, I mean, Joss Whedon was pretty great directing this movie. He was awesome writing the story, directing. This movie is underrated and pure badass in my opinion. One of my personal favorite movies of all time, one of the greatest sequels of all time, Wanda Maximoff, played by Elizabeth Olsen, she puts everyone down, she goes and she puts almost the team down, we see Thor is like, he's like in his world, in an Asgard once again, and he sees Heimdall now, who's not blind. Well, I think Steve Rogers is back in I think is back in the 40s, in which the war is now over, and he sees Peggy once again. I don't remember. No, Tony Stark is the only one that Wanda does not get to him, and Clint Barton, like a pure badass. I mean, I love Hawkeye in this movie, but Black Widow is my favorite. She's the best of the best from. Black Widow is so sexy. I mean, huge fan of Black Widow. Natasha Romanoff, so sexy. What a babe. I will marry that babe. Or marry Natasha Romanoff. She's so sexy. But Clint Barton's the only like a pure badass. He's the only one that Wanda can't get to him, and he grabs his arrow and punches her. He's the only one that defeats Wanda Maximoff. He's a badass. He's a pure badass, a badass. Clint Barton Hawkeye, he's a badass. He's a badass, He's the only one, who kicks Wanda's Maximoff ass, and then Quicksilver uses his super speed and takes off with Wanda, and because Wanda, she goes to the Hulk, and she uses vision, and she completely, with her power, hypnosis, she takes the vision and to the Hulk, and the Hulk becomes all crazy, and he starts demolishing Sokovia completely, and he completely starts threatening, people in Sokovia. I mean, in Johannesburg. He keeps. I meant Sokovia, Johannesburg, actually Johannesburg in the town. And I see a great armor suit with Tony Stark, and Tony Stark fights off the Hulk. He goes and fights off the Hulk. So that was awesome, He goes and fights off the Hulk. So that was pretty awesome, He fights the Hulk with an armor suit, and the fight scene was pretty awesome. On the end, he does defeat, and of course, when Tony Stark, in the opening scene, we see when Natasha Romanoff, Black Widow, says, "Hey, big guy, the sun's getting low," and Tony Stark needed that, and she's out. Natasha Romanoff sees herself, and she's out. So that's impossible right now. So there's like one. Tony Stark's the only one that defeats. That goes and defeats Hulk, and he makes sure that that once again, he becomes Bruce Banner. Because Wanda Maximoff, she gives them the telekinesis, except Clint Barton, So now because they're now because the Hulk almost demolished the town Johannesburg, the Avengers now became their public enemy #1. So they go to Clint Barton's hideout, to Hawkeye's hideout, and we see Hawkeye's family. And I love that because Tony Stark and Steve Rogers, they argue each other. What I wanted to say, another thing is Tony Stark and Steve Rogers, they argue each other. And in this movie, we actually see the family of Hawkeye, Clint Barton. But in the sequel, Avengers End of Game, they go and murder his family, and he's pretty useless in that film. You know, that's one of the reasons why Avengers Age of Ultron and The Avengers are my favorite movies. They're all gonna be my favorite, you know. And I do love this movie to death, but this is the Blu-ray, but I love this movie to death, you know. Love this movie to death, you know. And then we see Nick Fury, who shows up after 1 hour. He shows up after 1 hour, and in the bar, you know, talks to Tony Stark, and he says artificial intelligence and intelligence, you know, artificial intelligence. So now the team decide to work together, and of course Thor, he goes to Dr. Selvig to find answers, you know. And Dr. Selvig and Thor, they go in this cave in which Thor sees a vision what Ultron's attention are, that he's gonna create a global extinction which everyone is gonna die on this planet. In meantime, the team decide to work together, and the new leads brings them to that actually brings them in a town in which on the bridge, you know, they have to find that android, I think was I can't find it. That I wrote down, but I don't remember. They go to this town in which they are actually hunting down, that action sequence with the ship. You know, they go hunting down the truck who was moving that I think was that suit, that suit. I can't find it. That suit. I wrote it fucking down and can't find it. God damn it. I found it. Yeah, the android in which Ultron puts himself in every android. He builds a new android, you know. He builds a droid of android armies, you know, army of android, army of droids, you know. He's actually the android, you know, in the truck is actually moving, and they go after them. And I know that I heard somewhere that that they actually some whiners and complaints said, oh, look what they did to Black Widow. And Black Widow in this movie is a badass because she drives a motorcycle, she helps them to get that Vision android, you know, the android for Vision. She goes with a motorcycle, drives a motorcycle, and she also grabs a Cap's shield. There's also an action sequence in which Captain America fights off Ultron, and they go on this bus, and then later they are in this train. They go on this bus, and another thing, Wanda Maximoff can read the mind of Ultron when he becomes a human. In the android, he wants to become a human, and when she goes and she reads his mind, she finds out that he wants to kill everyone. And that was not the deal of the plan. They believe then that they're gonna destroy the Avengers, rip them apart, but not the global extinction of the world, So Maximoff, so both the twins Maximoff, they escape, and they decide to help the Avengers. And on the train, Maximoff Wanda Maximoff uses her power, in which she tries to stop the train while Quicksilver, saves all the people. He goes and saves all the people, and I love that, while Wanda stops the train. And I love the fight sequence between Captain America, between Cap and of course, what's this guy's name? Of course, Ultron. And I see when Scarlett Johansson's Black Widow, she drives a motorcycle, grabs Captain's shield, she throws in the shield, she goes on that container, she gets them back, that android, that android that was Ultron moving. She puts a bomb on a container, blows the container to pieces, which is pretty ballsy, and she kicks ass. And she also calms down. She also calms down the Hulk. I love the love between Natasha and Bruce Banner. The love in this movie, I love that, and she kicks ass, she that's pretty ballsy, she drives a motorcycle around, gets them that android, from Ultron. She also blows the container, jumps, grabs and saves, and she also captures the shield of Cap, throws the shield to Cap, which is ballsy, and she's without the balls, but she's a badass, she's a kick-ass, and I just think that there's nothing wrong with Black Widow, she's a badass, she's really awesome, she's a badass, and of course now the next Tony Stark and Bruce Banner, they decide now to put in that android, that Black Widow and Captain America, they bring them back, from Ultron. They decide to create a Jarvis system, and of course they decide to put Jarvis in the system, which he becomes later a Vision. But Maximum, they actually want Captain America, because they think Tony Stark is evil, because the weapons before, killed their parents, and they warn him. So Captain America goes and he demands, he sticks with Maximoff, and he says to shut it down, and of course Clint Barton never takes the side, he never takes the side with he goes and never takes the side with Cap, he never takes the side with Cap, and he destroys, he says he didn't see that coming, he goes destroys the Quicksilver. He also goes, Thor also shows up, while Quicksilver shuts the machine down, but of course Thor shows up and uses his hammer, and he makes sure that the Jarvis program, the Matrix program, because the Avengers finds out that it was actually because it didn't attack them, because it did not attack them because they wanted, but because it was the program was scared, so now Jarvis program, the Matrix of Jarvis program, shows up actually in the program shows up in actually in the Vision. Actually shows up in the Vision. He becomes a Vision, and they tried. They find out that Ultron is unique, but the Vision decides to help them out. Paul Bettany turns into Vision, which is pretty cool. It's boss, and they decide to help them out. And now they go back to Sokovia and they evacuate all the civilians. And of course, Ultron uses his power, and the country, it actually goes, the islands move, Sokovia moves, and I love like Captain America. He's a real hero. He says, I'm not leaving this island until everyone is safe, like Clint Barton goes and saves a kid, he saves a kid. Captain America tries to save a lady, but she falls down with the car, and Thor grabs her, throws her. Captain catches her, and Thor also catches other civilians. And I love when of course, I love when, and of course I love when Nick Fury shows up with Helicarrier and all, flying command center aircraft from the first movie, and all the civilians, they go evacuate on that aircraft, that you just mentioned it, Helicarrier aircraft, the all civilians are evacuated, and we see Ultron, using an airplane and shoots with a machine gun, and he kills, he goes and kills Quicksilver. Quicksilver saves Cliff Barton. He saves Hawkeye. He saves him, and he gets killed, and the Wanda gets pissed, because Quicksilver dies, and Quicksilver is actually a hero. He saves like people, he saves cops, he saves civilians, they go and they save the whole world. They save Sokovia, and they evacuated all the civilians, while Ultron wanted to kill them all, They evacuate all the civilians, which is pretty awesome, which is badass, But yeah, they wanted to evacuate everyone, which that was pretty ballsy, in my opinion, They wanted to evacuate everyone, and I love it. Captain America says, I'm not leaving, I'm not going anywhere until everyone is evacuated, everyone's safe. That makes him a real hero, he's the most hero. I think that was James Spader, was Aaron Taylor Johnson who said that, I think it was Aaron Taylor Johnson that said that Chris Hemsworth, who plays Thor, was the most stronger of all of them. And also when Wanda Maximoff, fights against Ultron, and Clint and Wanda falls down in that pit, and she says, and the girl starts crying, says, it's all my fault, and I love when Clint shows up, he calms her down, he's unique, he goes and calms her down, says, what's done is done. You're now one of us. You're now Avenger. Now help us out. And he motivates her, and Scarlet Witch goes back like a pure badass she is, and kicks all the androids, and like she goes to Ultron and she grabs, like she rips his head out, which is pure badass in my opinion, And of course, the Rock Sokovia gets destroyed, but all civilians, are actually evacuated. And I love when Clint Barton saves a kid, Hawkeye, he saves a kid and shows back, he saves the kid, he goes and he saves, he goes like a pure badass he is, and saves a kid. He's a real hero, they're all of them a real hero, By the end, they defeated Ultron forever, and of course, now in the woods, Ultron, is pissed, and because Vision, Vision on the end kills him, Vision on the end kills him, and meantime, of course, the Hulk, Bruce Banner finds, he goes and finds, he finds, he finds Natasha Romanoff, Black Widow in that cave that's been captured by Ultron, and he saves her, and he wants to escape with her, but she pushes him down, and she says, "I need the other one, the green one." So the Hulk shows up, in that time when Ultron starts firing with airplane, with F-18 airplane, machine gunning everyone, including kills Quicksilver. The Hulk shows up, throws him out, he goes in the ship, and because Natasha calls to him, he escapes, he escapes and he leaves, and because it's actually Stark's program, which is untraceable, so he disappears, so Hulk disappears. And for the 2 years later, the Hulk never appears anywhere, not in Captain America. In Captain America Civil War, Thor and the Hulk, they're the only one that does not appear. The rest of the team does appear. But in Thor, Ragnarok is then explained where he went. Thor for 2 years, where he went, the Hulk for 2 years. He was the Hulk until Thor defeated him, and he thought that it was back in 2015. Did not know that he was missing for 2 years, or what happened to Natasha Romanoff, So now, so now because Iron Man also goes on his own way, Thor he goes back to his hometown. He goes back to his hometown, Asgard. And of course now Captain America is the leader, because Hydra was because Shield was been destroyed in Captain America, the Winter Soldier, because it was part of Hydra. And now, now in the Avengers facility, Captain America is the leader, and we got now new heroes, and that's of course War Machine, and of course it's Falcon. Anthony Mackie returns as Falcon, and of course Wanda Maximoff is now the Scarlet Witch is now actually the Avenger. She became the team of Avengers. She's Avenger now. Which is awesome, badass, and I love that, that she's now an Avenger, yeah, and Wanda Maximoff is a badass, and yeah, so that's actually how it was. Sorry about that. But yeah, on the end, Captain America is leading now the team. He's now actually the team leader, which he is. He's captain, he's Captain America, and directed and and directed by Joss Whedon. He created TV show Buffy the Vampire Slayer. He directed both the two Avenger films. The reason I found out why was the reason that Joss Whedon did not direct the next two sequels, because he was so exhausted, because there's so many characters in this story, and he was really exhausted. It was really difficult and hard for working with him. For 2015, I would say this was actually better than Jurassic World, better than Terminator Genesis, much better than any films. I'd definitely rather watch this film as Avengers. Definitely would rather watch of. So far from 2000, I know there are actually a few movies that were actually about team, like The Expendables or Guardians of the Galaxy. Of course, Transformers. Yeah, some people are complaining that Ultron is like Transformer, or it's almost the same as the Transformers. I'll choose this movie over Transformers, The Expendables, anything. It's my personal favorite action film. This is how we do an action film. And Joss Whedon was perfectly as director and writer for this film. So the movie, the cast talks about, I'm just going to show you, which is much better. So the team, or much this better. So So yeah, the team, the Avengers Age of Ultron stars Robert Downey Jr. I just have to do that. Robert Downey Jr., Chris Evans, Jeremy Renner, Paul Bettany, Chris Hemsworth, Scarlett Johansson, James Spader, Mark Ruffalo, and of course Elizabeth Olsen returns, and of course Aaron Tyler Johnson. Samuel L. Jackson is also in this movie. Yeah, so that's actually pretty is the team. And Scarlett Johansson, I didn't know the actress. The actress Elizabeth Olsen, she was a little sister to the Olsen sisters, Mary Kate and Ashley Olsen. I remember New York Minute was actually my favorite film that they did. They did a lot of movies together, but after turning 18, they became both drug addicted and drunks. You know, the party from 2004 to 2008. I think Mary Kate Olsen married, and yeah, she was in drug. She was in rehab for a very long time. And I did not know that, but yeah. But Elizabeth Olsen, you know, she was great. Now we also this year WandaVision 2021. There's gonna be TV miniseries, and so it's gonna be the Falcon, the Winter Soldier, which is gonna be TV miniseries. So far, there's only 9 episodes for WandaVision, and in my opinion, she was great as Wanda Maximoff Scarlet Witch. Elizabeth Olsen, never heard about her. I did not know she was related to the Olsen sisters. I know that the Olsen sisters were in Full House, but decided not to return in that spin-off or whatever it was. You know, for Fuller House, they did not return. But they did a lot of movies together, and my favorite of them is actually New York Minute. That's the only one I can relate to, only good movie that I think they did. I'm not a fan of them, you know, so yeah. But Elizabeth Olsen was great as Scarlet Witch. She was great as Scarlet Witch. Sorry, she's not right here, but she's really in the back, you know, Scarlet Witch. She's really in the back, Scarlet Witch. But yeah, she's great. Aaron Tyler Johnson is great as Quicksilver. He was the character was previously in X-Men: Days of Future Past a year earlier, but in 2014. But it was actually played by even I think was by someone else. He was previously played by I wrote somewhere down. He was previously played by, I think was can't find him who already played him, you know. Evan Peters. He was played by Evan Peters. Yeah, he was played by Evan Peters in X-Men: Days of Future Past back in 2014. I read that director Josh Whedon, it took him a year to convince Aaron Tyler Johnson from Kick-Ass, you know, from Kick-Ass 1 and 2 to take the role of of Quicksilver, Pietro Maximoff. And he took only the role because he found out that Elizabeth Olsen was also cast in this film, and they both, you know, well, Elizabeth Olsen, she was preparing for the character, for the role. She was also trying to develop a relationship with her brother and her sisters, you know, before after preparing for the role. And they both, you know, the actor and actress became like close friends, you know. They actually bond a real friendship, and because they played Godzilla 2014 together. So they both, he took the part of the role of Pietro Maximoff Quicksilver when he found out that Elizabeth Olsen is going to be cast. And they both choose the parts because they worked previously great together. So that was reunion once again. James Spader took the role. He was actually Josh Whedon's choice. And James Spader and Robert Downey Jr. did play 30 years ago, back in 1985. They played in movie Tough Turf. I think it's on YouTube. It was actually a teen drama movie. But James Spader, he's awesome. He's the best actor of all time. My favorite movie that James Spader did was actually from this director, from Roadhouse, Rowdy Harrington, Jack's Back. Sunday might gonna get the movie on Blu-ray. But I enjoyed Jack's Back, and Rowdy Harrington was great director. James Spader took two roles, and he talked, about a serial killer after the Jack the Ripper anniversary. A serial killer, a copycat starts killing women, and of course James Spader takes two roles. One of role is actually of this college student who finds out that one of his classmates is a killer but gets murdered, and then his twin brother sees a vision. He sees the killer's face, but while he confronts the killer, stabs the killer, but finds out that he only killed his brother because his brother suspect him as being a Jack the Ripper, but it turns out it was actually that college professor killing the women, and James Spader stopped them, directed by Rowdy Harrington, which was awesome. And Rowdy Harrington said nothing but nice things about James Spader. He was a professional. And James Spader took the role of Ultron, and that was awesome. And James Spader and Robert Downey Jr., they both played in Tough Turf, which is one of my favorite movies. But nowadays, everyone talks about the Karate Kid because Cobra Kai shows up, The Karate Kid is non-stop talk about. What about Tough Turf? They should talk about Tough Turf. The movie is not about karate, but it's actually another good movie about a gang, And James Spader plays a good guy who prevents a robbery from a gang, and he starts talking to a girl, and he goes and seduces the girl of the gang leader, and that becomes a war. And I love when Robert Downey Jr. shows up on the end, and he lands his dogs, and I love that, So that was ballsy, So that was ballsy, So that was actually pretty ballsy. And they both worked 30 years together. 30 years later, they both worked on this movie, Age of Ultron. And Avengers Age of Ultron is actually my favorite movie they did together than Tough Turf. I put this movie above Tough Turf. Avengers Age of Ultron, I had fun, nothing but just fun. And of course, I did wrote it down. I did wrote it down, but Ultron was I did wrote down for James Spader somewhere. I did. James Spader was Joss Whedon's only choice for the role of Ultron because of his hypnotic voice, and because Ultron was 8 to 9 feet tall. He was 8 to 9 feet tall. He was also 8 to 9 feet tall. He was 8 to 9 feet tall. The back. So James Spader had to wear an antenna like a contraptation made of a thick piece of wire with 2 red balls attached to the top that went up his entire back and 3 feet above his head, so that he looked like real, that he was convincing. And James Spader as Ultron is better than Thanos. I would rather watch Ultron as Thanos. Fuck Thanos. Fuck Avengers Infinity War and the sequel End of Game. Fuck those two movies. This is my movie, my favorite movie, you know. And like I said, Scarlett Johansson was great. I mean, she was kicking ass. She was ballsy. She calmed the Hulk. She was driving a motorcycle. She gave them that android vision. You know, she also jumped and put a bomb and destroyed that container. You know, she was calming the Hulk. She was like kicking that army in Sokovia from terrorists. She was a badass, you know. Robert Downey Jr. was badass. He was great as Iron Man. Best performance by Robert Downey Jr. He returned. He stopped the Hulk. He went and stopped the Hulk. He also went and stopped the Hulk. He also created Jarvis with Jarvis, you know, as Vision. He also stopped the Ultron. Iron Man was great in my opinion. Captain America was the best hero. He said, "I'm not leaving this island until everyone is safe." You know, Thor was great. Thor and Iron Man, they were together. They're saving people. They're saving civilians. Iron Man was great fighting Ultron. Thor was fighting Ultron, you know. And like Vision and Iron Man, Vision and Thor, they use the power and they defeat Ultron, you know. All three, they use the power and they defeat Ultron. They defeated the Ultron, you know. They don't make movies nowadays, you know. They overrated and overhyped movies. They don't make them like this anymore, you know. You know, they don't make them. I love this movie, man. I love this movie. Love this movie to death, you know. And Mark Ruffalo as the Hulk was awesome. He was great. You know, Paul Bettany's The Vision was awesome. As Jarvis, he was great. Chris Hemsworth as Thor was badass. He was great. Hawkeye was a real hero, you know. I love his family. I love that he saved that kid, that he saved civilians, just like in the first movie. He was badass, you know. The Avengers, I would say this is my favorite team of movies, you know, with the team. You know, Avengers, Age of Ultron, or the Avengers, it's actually both my favorite films, you know. I just love this movie, you know. I love this movie. And Aaron Tyler Johnson from Kick-Ass was great, you know. So was Elizabeth Olsen's best performance. I have to go really say Elizabeth Olsen best performance. Aaron Tyler Johnson, my opinion, best performance. To say sad he dies on the end, but he didn't want to continue the character. Best performance, James Spader. I have nothing but respect. Best performance by him. Of course, best performance by Paul Bettany. I said best performance by Robert Downey Jr., best performance by Scarlett Johansson, best performance by Chris Hemsworth, best performance by the Hulk, Mark Ruffalo, best performance by Chris Evans as Steve Rogers, Captain America, best performance by Clint Barton, Hawkeye, Jeremy Renner. And of course, another thing that I wrote down, during the filming, during the filming this movie, Scarlett Johansson, she was also pregnant, and this movie was filmed during her pregnancy. So 3 stunt doubles were hired to help hide Scarlett Johansson's pregnancy, and they were so similar that they look like Scarlett Johansson. And Chris Evans stated that once he said hello and they start conversation, middle of the conversation he found out that it was not Johansson, it was actually a stunt double, because a stunt woman, because they're all look alike. And there was also used a CGI to hide her belly, you know, so that they did not see she was pregnant. But Scarlett Johansson and her stunt doubles, they still did great job. But I did not see. I saw when Scarlett Johansson was driving a motorcycle that was not a stunt double, you know. But yeah, the special effects for Ultron, for the movie were great. The visual effects are great. are awesome. The action sequences are great. The story is great. This time in the first movie, the music composer was Alan Silvestri. Now there are two composers. Brian Tyler, who was a music composer for Rambo and The Fast and the Furious, and of course Danny Elfman, who was also music composer for Tim Burton's Batman, 1989. And the music score was great. The visual effects for Ultron, for Wanda Maximoff, Scarlet Witch, and Pietro Maximoff Quicksilver was awesome. The armor suit for Iron Man was awesome. I mean, the title, the story was great. Was released May 1, 2015. And of course, yeah, the opening scene, which was kind of badass. I would say my favorite scene would be on the African ship in Johannesburg. When they meet that arms dealer, that was my favorite scene. Or my favorite scene is also when Iron Man fights the Hulk, and the actor who plays the Wolverine, Hugh Jackman, stated that he would like to be in this movie as Wolverine fighting the Hulk, but that wasn't possible because the rights were actually held by 20th Century Fox for the X-Men, so they couldn't cast him, but that would be really awesome, the Wolverine would fight the Hulk in this movie. That would be awesome. But yeah, of course, yeah, my favorite scene would be the Hulk and Iron Man. Iron Man fights with a better armor suit, bigger armor suit, fights the Hulk. My favorite scene would be a Black Widow driving a motorcycle, grabs Cap's shield, throws Cap's shield. Or my favorite scene is also another favorite scene is Captain America fighting off Ultron. Or another favorite scene is when Vision, Thor, and Iron Man use his power to defeat Ultron. My favorite scene, Captain America and Thor saving that lady and the other civilians in the car. Another favorite scene of mine. I mean, this movie is my movie. This is my favorite superhero movie of all time. My favorite comic book film, my favorite superhero movie, my favorite sci-fi movie, my favorite action movie. I will put this movie about the X-Men. I'll put this movie about Superman, even though I love Superman. I'll put this movie about the X-Men, the X-Men, the Justice League. This is actually a real team, not Justice League. This is actually how we do a team. This is actually a real team of superheroes. This is how we do. This is my movie, and I'm always gonna watch Avengers Age of Ultron. My favorite movie of all time. My personal favorite movie of all time. I love this movie to death. I mean, I love this movie. I love the cast. I love the action sequences, the visual effects, the story. I love how they filmed, which is really awesome. And the opening scene was actually look for the look and the hunt for Loki Scepter was actually in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., which is TV show in the Dirty Half Dozen in 2013. No, 2015, I apologize, 2015, Agent Coulson, played by Clark Gregg, he breaks into Hydra base and locates Loki Scepter. He later contacts Maria Hill, so she can let the Avengers know to go to Sokovia and retrieve it, the Loki Scepter, and that's how in the opening scene they fight in the Sokovia to retrieve the Loki's scepter. That was actually that's actually for the first movie. That's actually for the battle in the open scene that you saw, which is pretty badass, really ballsy, the Avengers fighting that army, with guns. They use their weapons and their trainings, and of course their strength and their talents, to fight off those the army, the Sokovia army, to retrieve that Loki's scepter back. Yeah, Josh Whedon was exhausted to work on this movie. He said it was nightmare. It wasn't like X-Men, that's why he declined to direct the next 2 Avenger films. I thought he was fired. He wasn't, because there were too many characters in the story and was really exhausted. He was really exhausted, which I believe. And Josh Whedon, he wrote and directed this movie, and he did a great job. He did great. He directed and wrote the story. He was great. He did a great job, He did a great job. This movie is mocked by critics, underrated as fuck, the most underrated Marvel movie, in my opinion. Oh, Daredevil is underrated. No, that would be Avengers Age of Ultron, my movie. That's my opinion, I speak for myself. Yeah. Already did that. I already did that. Too. It was the 11th movie in the Marvel. It was actually the second phase, in Cinematic Universe MCU, Marvel Cinematic Universe. It was phase 2. Before that, it was Iron Man 3, Thor: The Dark World. I forgot. I think was Guardian of the Galaxy. Before that was also Guardians of the Galaxy, which I remember. Before Avengers Age of Ultron came up, show up. Yeah, the movie was filmed in South Africa too. Budget was $250 million, but made once again $1 billion worldwide. But this time it lasts a little less than the first one, because the first one was like 500, $1 billion 500. I wrote down somewhere. Sorry about that. Yeah, because in the first movie made $1 billion 518 and more, what this movie made $1 billion 402, but it's still successful, just like the first one, still successful. So like I said, the Marvel announced this movie back in 2012 in May, when the first movie was released, and casting began June 2013. Second unit filming began in February 2014 in South Africa, taking place between March and August, permanently at the Shepperton Studios in Surrey, England, which they moved, until it was released in May 1, 2015. So I think it already was last year. It was already 5-year anniversary. It's gonna be 6-year anniversary in 2 months. I know I should review this movie in May, but I just reviewed now in March 18, 2021. And yeah, and that actually was the visual effects. And yeah, I think that I went through everything now. It's been now one hour which I reviewed Avengers Age of Ultron. But I love the visual effects, the acting performance. The acting is not decent, great by everyone, and I would say it's one of the greatest sequels of all time. I do have the Blu-ray. I only had the first and this one on Blu-ray. I don't have the last two. Never bought them. I don't care about the last two. I only have these two movies. A new age begins. I'm just gonna write it down on the end. A new age begins. Spader was fantastic as Ultron, in my opinion. The Maximoff twins are great. Elizabeth Olsen was awesome. The first and the second movie are my favorite by Josh Whedon. Love Buffy the Vampire Slayer, and I love this movie to death. That's my favorite comic book film with Superman. Avengers Age of Ultron was awesome, was ballsy, it was pretty awesome. It was really great. I had fun last night. I enjoyed it. I enjoy this film. Avengers Age of Ultron, love to death. My personal favorite comic book film, my favorite superhero film, my favorite team film. If I want to watch a movie about a team in the action area, if I had to choose between the Transformers, the Expendables, Justice League Zack Snyder's Justice League cut show is now coming out, which I don't fucking care. I would rather choose this movie. I choose this movie over Justice League, the Expendables, the Guardians of the Galaxy, or even Transformers. I would rather watch this movie. This movie is to me better than the Expendables, than Transformers, than Guardians of the Galaxy. I would rather watch this film or the first one. The both movies are to me better. I would rather watch these two movies than the Expendables, Guardians of the Galaxy, or the Transformers. I like the first one and the third one. The second one not so much, the Transformers. But I would rather watch the Avengers or Avengers Age of Ultron, which are both my favorite movies. And the Avengers and Avengers Age of Ultron are my personal favorite comic book films, my favorite sci-fi films, my favorite action films. I grew up with those kinda. I grew up with Iron Man and with the Hulk. I grew up. So that's one of the reasons why I'm a huge fan. I love this Blu-ray cover. I watched it last night, enjoyed it. This is the bag. The team of superheroes. Great direction by Joss Whedon. Great writing, great screenplay by Joss Whedon. Great music score by Brian Tyler and Danny Elfman. Great performance by Scarlett Johansson, Robert Downey Jr., Chris Hemsworth, James Spader, Paul Bettany, Chris Evans, Mark Ruffalo, and Jeremy Renner, and of course Elizabeth Olsen and Aaron Taylor Johnson. It took the director a year to convince Aaron Taylor Johnson to accept the role of Pietro Maximoff Quicksilver. So that was pretty awesome. Aaron Taylor Johnson, he was previously in Kick-Ass. I love Kick-Ass 1, but Kick-Ass 2 is kind of a bad movie. I think the other one, Kingsman, the Secret Service, I think was Kingsman. The first one is actually much better. Kick-Ass 2 kind of a little let down, a little disappointment. Like the first one was great by Matthew Vaughn. Maybe Sunday I'm gonna review those movies. But yeah, that's my movie review on Avengers Age of Ultron. No, I'm not gonna review the next two sequels. I'm done. I don't think I'm gonna review for a while any comic book films. This is probably now the last one. Sunday I'm not gonna do Batman films. Maybe that Deadpool, which I love, with Ryan Reynolds someday. But for now, I'm kind of done with movie reviews and videos. Maybe tomorrow I'm not gonna do another video, but I'm not sure. But anyway, that's my movie review on Avengers Age of Ultron. Underrated, one of the greatest superhero films of all time, my personal favorite. I hope you enjoyed it. Sorry it took it's that long review, but I really had fun to talk about my favorite movies of all time. But I'll see you next video, and I'm out. Peace. Ciao. Have a good day.